hack. I was nervous, but everything just felt like right. I was like, oh, sun's beating down on me, handing me an ice cold beer. All right.
On Triple J.
Now, how important is sex to you? Out of 10. Okay, and how important is sex in a relationship? Well, the two people you're about to meet aren't into sex. They're asexual. Liz Maddock reports.
Eating a really good meal, I would say, for me, is more viscerally and, like, sensually satisfying than sex.
Jack's asexual and aromantic. He's not sexually attracted to people and has no interest in relationships.
I would have been, 15, 16 in high school. Everyone around me was very interested in dating and very interested in sex, and I was not. At that point, I just kind of assumed that it was kind of a late bloomer type situation and that I would grow into it. Then I turned 17 and I turned 18 and never the slightest flicker of attraction, and I sort of started to realize I was not going to grow into it.
Only 1% of the population is asexual, and it's usually women. Jack didn't even know it was a thing until he found the term on the internet.
It was definitely good to know that this was not just me being deficient or broken or unusual in some way, that this was kind of a common experience.
Victoria is 19 and she found out in a pretty similar way.
I came across a blog that detailed some common experiences of asexual people and essentially identified with pretty much all of them. You feel like sex is a very big deal. You've been without sex for X amount of months or years and it doesn't bother you. You feel like sex means something to other people that it doesn't to you.
There's a spectrum of asexuality, with asexuality on one end and full sexual desire at the other.
In the middle, we've got demisexual, which is people who don't feel sexually attracted to other people. They don't feel that desire to connect sexually with someone until they have a strong emotional connection with them.
And then there's grey asexuality.
It could be anyone who identifies as asexual, but then they experience sexual attraction that one time to that one person, to someone who does experience sexual attraction, but it happens very, very rarely.
There are asexuals who like romance and affection. They just don't have sexual desire. There are even dating sites specifically for asexual people. But Jack has never had any interest.
I don't experience attraction. So I am perfectly capable of looking at someone and, recognizing that, their face is aesthetically pleasing and that it is what other people would consider kind of like attractive. But I have no interest in sex with other people.
He did try sex once, though.
It was nice. The person was lovely. It just kind of happened. Like, I was curious because, while it wasn't something I felt any urge or need or desire to participate in, there was a certain idle, kind of almost intellectual curiosity. And this friend was willing to experiment, and we did. And it was, it was pleasurable. I mean, asexual people, like other human beings, do have functioning nerve endings. But it was, I would say, like, eating a really good meal, I would say, for me, is more viscerally and, sensually satisfying than sex. Watching a really good movie.
What movie have you seen that made you feel better than that sexual encounter?
It was Mad Max Fury Road. Like, the adrenaline high that I came out of that movie on was, viscerally far more impactful than how I felt after having sex.
What did it feel like?
I was there and I was participating, but I was also kind of feeling oddly detached from the whole thing.
Did you orgasm?
I did, yes. And it was all right, I suppose. It felt like any other orgasm, to be honest. Though, frankly, to be honest, I think I actually prefer masturbation.
Some asexuals do masturbate and are able to reach orgasm and get sexual pleasure from it.
For me, that feels normal and that feels good. It's the interest to kind of relieve it with other people that I just have no interest in.
Victoria also gave it a go at 17, but it was all for her boyfriend.
After the initial 30 seconds to 1 minute, I would just drop off and sort of just wishing that the encounter would be over and done with.
And it's often hard for people to accept asexuality.
My parents are pretty good about it, though I think to some extent they're probably still uncertain if this is, just a phase and one day I will grow out of it and I will meet a nice girl or boy and, fall in love and want to have sex.
Hack on Triple J with Tom Tilley.
That's Jack speaking to Liz Maddock, talking about being asexual. And we have a sexologist with us on the line, Amanda Robb. Amanda, why are some people asexual?
Hi, Tom. Look, I think, if we look at the definition of asexuality, it's someone who does not experience sexual attraction. So, there's many sexual orientations that do have variables. But I think that it's a really individual, like every sexual orientation, it's an individual thing.
But is it nature or nurture?
Look, if it comes down to, with asexuality, a lot of people will say that they are born asexual, that they'll say that this is something that's very much a part, like an intrinsic part of their individuality. So I think it's a bit of both as well.
Okay. On the text line, sex is the bomb diggity. Love from Fatty B. Thank you for that contribution. Tommy Baldwin says sex in a relationship matters twice as much when you're single. It's an interesting take. Now, it is, I think, hard for a lot of people to imagine a romantic relationship without sex. So let's find out how relationships work when there isn't sex involved. Amber and Victoria talked to Liz Maddock about it.
I was 16 at the time, and it lasted for about a year.
Victoria tried a sexual relationship once.
I liked them well enough. They were funny, confident. So at a party, we essentially got together. Must have been about a month or two after that first had sex, and was quite underwhelmed, but didn't show it. I assumed it would get better as it went on.
But it didn't.
Everything else in the relationship was very fun. We had a lot in common in terms of game preferences and movies and political views, and so that was great. I essentially saw sex as the chore to get to the good parts of the relationship.
Victoria now identifies as asexual and homo-romantic.
While I'm not sexually attracted to other women, I would be interested in entering a formal romantic relationship with one, which means essentially that I'd like to do romantic things with them. I'd like to be their significant other. I'd like them to be mine. I'd like to go on dates and curl up on the couch under a blanket with a bottle of red.
No dates, no buying pets together or things like that.
Amber's 20. She's asexual and aromantic, meaning she's not interested in coupling up at all.
I've been asked out a few times and I've gone on a couple of dates, but it just didn't work out. I just wasn't interested. In the end of it, it was, come back to my place and it was, sorry, no.
She says her dates inevitably fall flat.
There was this guy back last year or so, and we met at a nightclub and kind of kissed, and that was it, and asked me out the next day, and we went out for lunch, and that was it. Didn't anything progress from it.
You knew immediately that there wasn't a connection?
Yeah, straight away.
She says she's never felt that kind of connection and doesn't want to.
I didn't want to get any closer. I didn't want to move apart. I didn't want to kiss him again. I didn't want to sleep with him. I didn't want to see him again in a romantic sense. It was just friendship.
And she doesn't feel like she's missing out.
I'm not an affectionate person in general. I never have been an affectionate person, so I don't crave affection. I don't crave people being near me or touching me or things like that. It's just nothing.
I love being affectionate, and there's no sexual component to it, but I just love cuddling and, kissing and those fuzzy things.
Victoria is looking for love, and she says that for the right person, she would be willing to have sex.
If I was in a relationship with a non-asexual woman and they didn't require a lot of sexual contact, but they did require a little bit every now and then, or on a weekly basis perhaps, I could compromise, but I wouldn't be sexually attracted to them. I would be doing it because I love them.
And Victoria says that kind of compromise is not unique to the asexual community.
Well, sexual incompatibility is an issue in lots of different relationships. It's not necessarily just sexual and asexual relationships. But yeah, it's all very much down to the communication and how you navigate and express your feelings and desires.
Hack with Tom Tilley, Triple J.
You're listening to Hack. We're talking about being asexual and how you navigate a relationship. And Kate, you're asexual, but you've got a husband and you've had a child together. How does that work?
Yeah, it's been awkward. We've been together for 6 years and we have sex occasionally, and I do it more so for the relationship, and because I do love him, I don't get anything out of the sex. I don't feel anything from it.
Have you guys ever talked about it?
We haven't talked about asexuality. He knows that he just have a really low sex drive, so it caused a lot of problems in our relationship. We fight a lot over it. I've brought up asexuality. I've pointed out things online and said, "Oh, we think of this," and it's just been dismissed as that's a load of bullshit, and it's not a real thing. And yeah,
I guess it's hard for some people to understand, Kate. A tough situation. Thanks for calling in and being so brave to talk about it.
No worries, thank you.
I'll quickly go to Amanda Robb, the sexologist. Amanda Robb, how do you advise people who are in these kinds of situations to negotiate their relationship dynamics?
Yeah, Tom, look, I think like any relationship, communication and particularly around sexual intimacy and contact is so vital, and particularly for people that identify as asexual, there can be a lot of pressure, not just within their relationship, but, society. We have such a hypersexualized society around. So I think it's really important that they find a middle ground in communicating what's happening. I mean, a safe place for that might be in couples counselling or with a sex therapist, being able to normalise it by someone that can say, hey, look, this is actually a legitimate sexual orientation. This isn't just a low libido. This is how someone identifies their sexuality.
Interesting. Such a mind-bending thing for a lot of people. Amanda, thank you so much for joining us.
You're more than welcome.
On the text line, I'm 27. I thought I was asexual until this year when I met my boyfriend. Interesting perspective there. Thanks so much for all your calls and texts today. Linda Mariano is up next with Good Nights. Catch you tomorrow.